Hi everyone, it's really great to be at the summit. My name is Lou, I'm an expedition leader and I'm going to take some time to talk to you about reviewing techniques. From my perspective, there are lots of times when we should be reviewing with our groups on the trip. Without well facilitated reflection, the students just don't learn and grow as much. Early on in the trip, that could be the build-up day or the training day, there are opportunities to learn things about our team, what they're looking forward to, and maybe what they're anxious about. There are a couple of little tips that I use. One of them is I get them to tell me their name, maybe a little bit of a daft fact about themselves that the team may also not know. I ask them what they're looking forward to and what they're anxious about. I then try and repeat that back to them as a story about the team. Much easier with a smaller team than it is with a big team, but it's a nice icebreaker and it gives me the opportunity to just get to know them a little bit better. I also, on training day, may ask them to write a letter to themselves about the expedition, what they're excited about, what they're anxious about, and that is personal to them. It's not shared with anybody else. And I keep those and then I give them to them at the end of the expedition, giving them the opportunity to share the comparison if they want to. If they don't and they want to keep it private, that's absolutely fine. But it is quite a nice thing for them to look at and think, oh, that was a few months ago and that's how I felt about it. And now this is what I feel at the end of this amazing experience. I also, on the build-up day, get them to write down 1 or 2 things that they think I can help them with as a leader. It's quite a good one, that, because it gives me the opportunity to think about what I might be able to do to make that experience really good for them. Again, often they might write down things that they're anxious about that they may not have shared verbally in front of the rest of the group. So it's quite a nice one for that. I think it's important that we have some daily reflection on expedition, as it gives everyone the chance to think about the day's activities, share their thoughts and feelings, and we can also address any immediate concerns or issues. They don't always need to be very long, and of course if we run the same sit-down session over and over again, quite rightly teenagers will become disinterested and switch off. I do all sorts of things. I sometimes get them to tell me a story with a limited number of letters. So I might say that they've got 6 words rather than letters that they can use to describe the day, and I make them do it one after another, and they can go around in as many times as you think to kind of describe what happened in that day. I also have a system where if there has been a hard day, so it might have been hard work physically, or they've experienced something that is an eye-opener in some of the cultures we go to, or they might have actually had a bit of a falling out, I put their names in a hat. I draw those so they pick one out, and then they give a compliment to that person. It could be something that's made them laugh. It could be something that they've contributed that day, or kindness and compassion. And what that helps to do is end the day on a positive rather than going to bed with the negative thoughts in their heads. That does not mean that I ignore any conflict in the group. Often the next day I will try and address that and iron that out. It just means that they've got time to kind of settle rather than being reactive, which is quite a good method if you've got a team where they may be becoming a bit disjointed in whatever way. I always run a review between the main phases of the trip, the trek and the incentive primarily. And it's really important for them to think about the learning experience of that. So on a recent expedition to Borneo, I had a geography specialist teacher, and we were looking at the palm oil plantations, the issues that are connected to that in relation to the wildlife. We did some tree planting. There was one evening around dinner where myself and her and our other leader made a list of questions around the incentive. So what did you expect it to be? How has it been in comparison? What have you seen that's changed your understanding and knowledge? Lots of different questions. We handed those out and asked the team to discuss that, had a chat about it, and she was able to inform them with her knowledge about how important that is linking back into the requirements of World Challenge. So that was quite a nice one that we just made up on off the cuff. So finally, it's really important to do some structured reviewing at the end of the trip. This enables the students to reflect on their journey as a whole. It's a great opportunity to celebrate their achievements and, most importantly, identify the students can apply their skills and knowledge as they go on in future. So I've often used this technique linked to a pack of cards, and we've got a heart, which links to compassion and kindness. We've got a diamond, which is like a top moment. We've got a spade, an example of when you've had to dig deep, and a club, where we've had to club together as a team or as two, smaller groups, however that may be. And I tell them that prior to the review. So they've got time. They're not kind of put on the spot. They've got time to think about what their answers may be. And they often get quite worried about saying the same thing as somebody else. And I say that's fine, because if your top moment is the same as somebody else's, that goes to show that actually you've all enjoyed something in common. Often we'll have that discussion maybe at a meal if we've gone out for a meal on the last night, or maybe prior to the flight if there's time. You need to allow a bit of time for that one, because it's quite a nice opportunity for them to discuss the responses that they have. So rather than them just giving the responses, it's nice to kind of allow opening up about all sorts of things. And often they'll say, I've got more than one, can I share more than one? Which is quite a nice thing as well. So there's lots and lots of techniques out there that you could have a look at. I'm very sure I've borrowed them off previous leaders. I've borrowed them off previous school leaders, because they have excellent ideas as teachers. And sometimes I just mull it over on a long bus journey, so I kind of come up with ideas. Like a quiz is a great one, maybe linked into the incentive, which I've made notes on a bus journey. Getting them to do something active sometimes, like standing in places, like you maybe ask them a question and they move around, just dependent on the questions you're asking or the environment that you're in. Anyway, hopefully that's given you a little bit of an idea of what you can do on expedition. And if anybody's got anything that they might want to ask, I'm sure that World Challenge can send me any questions that people might have. Thanks, guys.